Go live, guys, and help out Grant. Okay, doggies? Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming and joining, whether you're watching this live or whether you're going to watch this later on to try and get some help there with whatever you're needing help with. So what I do quite a lot of the time is I have clients all over the world, and they're able to send me in videos and ask questions, and I'm able to then answer them the best I can. And somebody I've done that for years and years with is a great trainer in California called Grant Noble, and I will share a link to his business. If you're in California, I'll share a link to his business on after this live, okay, in the comments, and then when I share this probably into a reel. So Grant's asked me a couple of questions and I want to be able to answer them, and he gives me permission to do this. Basically, I can answer it not just to him but to everybody, because he feels, Grant's so great, he feels if it's going to benefit anybody, then he would love for everybody to be able to listen and watch. So what I've got is I've got two little videos. I'm pretty rubbish with technology, so I've got it on my laptop here, and I'm going to play the video and I'm going to put you on the screen so you can see it. I'm sure there is a way that I could probably just do something on the screen right now and it would make, the video play or whatever and then come back to me. I'm sure there will be a way for doing that. Hopefully 2025 is the year for this business to get better with technology to be able to help you guys out. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to do it on the laptop. I hope that you like. We just recently moved into our new home and we have a parrot wall. So in case some of you are wondering, this is hand painted, okay? And I don't know. Tell us in the comments as well what you think about that. Should we keep it? Should we get rid of it? It's kind of growing on us in our conservatory, the parrot wall. Or as one of our friends called it, the budgie wall. So yeah, he's not invited back, but anyway. So I'm going to play the video and you guys can watch. There's two of them and they kind of follow on from each other, and then I'll try and remember and answer the questions, okay? And hopefully this will help you. So let's just see if I can flip the screen. Here we go.
Hey Roddy, nice to hear from you. You're looking good. You're looking lean and mean and happy, so that's awesome. Thank you for being open to helping me with some questions. You always give me a lot of clarity and peace. I have a couple questions. So I have one dog. Dog is super friendly with dogs, totally cool, not really reserved around dogs at all, but it got attacked by a boxer. And if a dog tries to hump him, he immediately tries to attack the dog with very little warning. It's a golden retriever, so it's a pretty chill dog. But if the dog's humping him, he'll try and attack. And for me, I can typically, if the dog's humping, of course I'm going to correct the other dog. But the owners are not going to be able to have a quick reaction time, and so they want to know what to do to mitigate that. So that's question number one. Question number two is, what's your basic? Hey Roddy, nice to hear from you. You're looking.
So I'm going to answer question one first, okay? And then go back. We can go into question two, and there's a few other questions as well. So what he's saying here is there's a golden retriever out with him and out with the clients or the owners. Two different scenarios, the different levels of knowledge. But the retriever is pretty chill, like typical retriever, but it has had a negative experience with a boxer. Just so happens it was a boxer that came and obviously invaded its intimate space and started humping it, and it's went for the boxer. And now when other dogs go to hump the dog, we'll circle back, but when other dogs go to hump the dog, which is his first problem, it goes full on, for other dogs. So first of all, we want to look at being proactive and reactive. So proactive is, of course, where we don't let other dogs go into your dog's space, the retriever space, without being invited. Regardless, even if they were going to hump or not, especially if they're going to hump, you definitely don't invite them into your dog's intimate space, into the retriever's intimate space. It's your job to tell your dog what to do, but also protect your dog. So straight off the bat, it should not be allowing other dogs to hump the retriever. It's going to lose major trust between the retriever and whoever's handling it at the time. And that's why the dog's feeling its need to have to take care of itself, you know. So straight away, just don't let it happen. You know, it's just not acceptable. If you're worried about how the client can deal with that, well, the client's job is to protect. Reactive is when it's already happened, the dog's maybe just in a real life situation, they're off the leash, and I don't know, play them even with another dog, and then that starts, and then you're worried that dog's going to explode. The retriever's going to have it explode at the dog. So what I'd be saying to that would be, make sure the retriever's got a good recall, and make sure the retriever is in close proximity of the handler, you know, especially when it's around another dog, especially if you think that other dog is going to try and hump them. It'd be best if that dog was foolproofed with remote collar trained, which I'm assuming it is with you, Grant. But definitely I'd be saying make sure the dog's got a good recall so you can bring the dog in and then protect the dog. That's really what we're thinking about here. Is it's our job to protect the dog. So there has to be close contact for you to be able to get in front of that dog's space and defend him. So yeah, just don't let it happen, you know. The other side, if you want to be able to control the level of correction that the retriever gives, you know, the retriever should be allowed to defend itself, of course, and protect itself, but it shouldn't be allowed to be a bully. So it's also the owner or your job, whoever's with the dog, to control the energy level or the level of explosion. So it's still appropriate for you to add in a correction, a limitation to the retriever. But the retriever's literally there going, well, you're going to help me. Like, you know, I'm only having to do this because you're not stepped up to the plate. So it's ultimately comes down to the human. But yeah, stop letting dogs go in and hump the retriever. That would be my answer to that question. Okay. So I'm going to bring up number 2, and we can have a look at that. Okay.
Like recall, e-collar training stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of times what I'm doing is I'm going, get it, I throw some food, they eat the food. As soon as they eat the food, I say come. As soon as they come back to me, I'll either get them into a sit or I'll just say yes immediately. Do that for a while until they love the come response. Then when the dog's going off, I'll tap the remote on a low level and keep tapping till the dog looks. As soon as the dog looks, say come, yes. And then eventually I'll go into saying come, and if the dog doesn't respond, saying no and tapping. And then if the dogs are having a hard time, I'll go backwards and go back to tapping first, then come, or go back to the get it, come, yes. But I'm noticing with some dogs, with their owners, the dogs are getting higher and higher on the remote, and to the point where they're just blowing off the remote at some point. So I'm wondering what you'd recommend with that. And then the last one is
Okay. Let's pause at that one because he's going to ask another question as well. So, first question is, why is, you know, the retriever reacting that way when they're getting humped? Right, we've covered that. Don't let other dogs hump the retriever. But you can control the level of reaction that the retriever has. Number 2 is, how do I condition e-collar, really, is what he's asking. Or what you're asking, Grant. So, most of the time, or all the time really, you're adding e-collar on top of something that the dog already knows. And generally the remote collar is taught through recall. So you're adding something the dog doesn't know and associating it with something they know and like. That's really what you're trying to do when you're adding e-collar. When you're adding anything new to the dog, we call that classical conditioning. So when you're conditioning the dog to anything, you're adding something new to the dog and then associating that thing with something that they know and like. So the dog should already have a good knowledge of recall, but the recall is probably, if they're using remote collar, the recall is probably negotiable. So the dog can understand recall, but also see the command as negotiable. So the e-collar is there is really the cementer, isn't it, with anything, but in this case recall. So the way I would do that is I do name, command, affection. So the dog should already have an understanding of recall. Always do escape when teaching. Escape when teaching. And Grant, I know you won't know what that means. For everybody listening, escape is very simple. Negative reinforcement to positive reinforcement. So what you're doing is you are, and very simply as well, what I say is what the dog knows least, that comes first in the sequence. So in this case, the dog is learning the remote collar. So the remote collar will come first. I'll be using continuous on the remote collar. Generally anything from e-collar technologies or Dogtra, but e-collar tech is kind of my go-to. Mini educator probably. So you're holding continuous on the remote. You're finding that lowest level that they feel. The dog is on a long line. The dog should be on a long line. Because then when you see a response from the dog, you're just looking for a movement. They don't necessarily know to turn and look at you yet, okay? So any sort of movement, I'm then gonna say the dog's name. Let's just say it's Rufus or Nacho, because Nacho is here. Okay, so Nacho, come. Then as I'm saying those words and I'm getting a response, I'm removing the pressure and pulling with the line. So the dog is really learning over time that word gets rid of the pressure. And I'm showing direction to the attention. So e-collars first. I will always do e-collar, name, command, affection. E-collar, name, command, affection. And what you'll then start realizing is you don't really need to pull the line, because every repetition the dog's starting to get it better and better. But I wouldn't have the line coming off until the dog has a really good understanding of the remote collar. Because the e-collar gets the attention, but you have to give the dog direction. So whether that is going on to, whether that's going onto a place, or whether that is going into a sit, or whether it's recall, in general it's recall first. So yeah, I wouldn't be jumping to being avoidance, which is the opposite, which is where I'm vocal first, and if the dog doesn't listen to it, they get the e-collar. So in other words, they can learn to avoid the e-collar if they listen to the word. You shouldn't really be doing that until the dog has a good understanding of the e-collar. Anyway, so I would always be doing e-collar first, getting what I want really, and adding a name to it. Okay, always just sticking to that. Definitely have it. It sounds like in your question the client maybe doesn't have a long line on. So the dog, you're having to go higher on the e-collar because the dog doesn't know the e-collar as much, and you're falling into positive punishment a bit, maybe a bit, well, definitely a bit too soon. If the dog's just blowing off and still going, well, if your levels are going higher and higher, then you build on distance, duration, and distraction, but only when the dog has a knowledge of the language of the remote collar. So in other words, use the remote collar with words, with physical pressure, line, and then reward. That's what I'd be doing. Only when the client or you haven't had to touch that line for a while, then you can go, well, even while the line's still on, I would still be then, when I feel the dog's getting there, I'd then be adding in distractions, but still with the line on. Because that allows, first of all, everything to be safe, but secondly, that you're able to take your time, slow it down, and get a more correct level with the remote collar. The answer isn't always just turn it up. The answer might be hold it a bit longer, or it might be add words a bit quicker, add that physical pressure of, say, a line a bit quicker, until the dog gets that knowledge. And it really allows the client to be more relaxed, and you as well, and nothing bad can happen. So that's how I condition the e-collar through recall. But even before that, what I do in the house is, I always say, get the dog comfortable with the language, and then get the dog comfortable with the language, and then you can get them to do things in that language. So I call it free money. So I'll be in the house and I'll just take a chunk of their daily treats, their daily food, their cash, and their stomach is their bank account. And I won't get them to do anything for the e-collar. I'll just find the lowest level they feel. So I'm just looking for a movement. This what we call positive confusion. Dog's going to be a bit confused. Like, what just touched me? And you then have to go, bang, good job, bang, good job, bang. Doing nothing for the money. Just get them comfortable with this sensation until they're kind of like, what naturally happens within under 10 repetitions. The dog is now naturally looking at, they feel the e-collar, but they're looking at you. Because they go, every time this happens, it's the dinner bell. And they're now comfortable with the sensation. So now they're comfortable with the piano stool, you can teach them the piano. Now they're comfortable with the sensation, you can now use it to teach recall. So that's what I do, free money first, and then I'll generally teach through recall. But you can, if the dog's got a really solid place or bed commands, you could teach the e-collar that way as well. Anything they know really good, you could just add the e-collar on top of it. Okay, hopefully that helps. But if the client is going, oh, I'm just turning it up and I'm blasting it off and going, well, the client's timing's off, the dog probably doesn't know it enough, they are jumping into too big distractions or areas to correct too quick. That's what it sounds like. Okay. Here we go. Last one.
I wanted to just get a little bit better understanding of how you create different ranges. So if you want the dog to walk at like a 6-foot range on a loose leash versus a 15-foot range versus a longer range. I know you're mentioning some different commands with that, but just a little bit step by step with that would be amazing. Dude, thank you, Roddy. I'm glad you were on this planet, man. You are best dog trainer in my eyes. It's pure gold. Results don't lie. So you're looking good. Appreciate you and look forward to hearing your feedback. Bye. Like recall.
Oh, Grant's awesome. Love Grant. So, anyone feeling down at any point and you feeling rubbish about yourself anyway, I'm going to put in Grant's link because all you need to do is just listen to him and he is great at building you up. So, such a great guy. So, I love you too, Grant. So, that last part of saying basically how does he control, or how do I control, boundaries? How do I control how far the dog can go from me? Well, it's just classic long line, and then setting. You can choose if you want to at certain distances, a 6 foot, 9 foot, 12 foot, whatever. You could add different words, and every time they get to that, you can do name, command, affection. So you might have different commands for different ranges. So you might have like far enough, or it doesn't matter, it could be bananas. But you have to basically link audio with physical touch. The easiest way to do that is if they've already been taught e-collar, and then you can also add, but definitely add initially the long line. You don't need e-collar to be able to do this, but e-collar is definitely more effective and more gentle. So I don't really care about what the words are as long as you're consistent, but I generally, if I'm doing e-collar, I'm getting what I want and then adding the name. Because I'm going in a lower level, tap, 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 the dog's at 6 foot, when the dog responds, and then adding a word to that because I've now got his attention. If you're not using e-collar, you're going to have to probably use the word and then a pop with the leash as well. And if you are doing it on a long line and not an e-collar, you're probably best using prong collar as well. Okay. So hopefully that helps. If you have watched this and you find this interesting, you found you can take some useful insights out of it, then for very cheap, you can message me or phone me and we can set this up for yourself. It doesn't have to be public like this. It can just be private video consults back and forth and really iron out any issues that you have with your dogs, okay? I do a lot of these things, but also I'm going to be doing more like lives and Q&As and things like that, but they're general, they're not necessarily specific to your dog. So if you want it specific to your dog, then contact me and we can really nip in the bud what the issues are. Okay, specific. Every dog has their own recipe and we have to find that little bliss point for that recipe. Okay, so that's what Natural thinks. Hey Natural. Thanks. Like my shoes. Conservatory's the shoe cupboard. You saying bye? You saying hi and bye? Thank you all. Get in touch if you need help.